Okay, so thank you guys so much for joining our Best Buddies Local Leadership Training Day today on Zoom. As you guys can see in the chat, we've got students from all across the state with us today, and this session is specifically for college students. So we're excited to take a deep dive into the logistics and the nitty-gritty details of running your college chapter and helping make it successful. So I know many of you, but I am Allie Lewis, and I'm the program manager of volunteers for Best Buddies in Texas. You guys get emails from me all the time. I show up in your inbox, so great to see you guys today. I'm going to go ahead and pass it off to Joaquin for introductions.
Hi there, my name is Joaquin Escalante. I'm the program manager of community engagement up here in North Texas. I've maybe met some of you, but more than likely haven't. My focus is on community outreach, our ambassadors, as well as smaller events in the North Texas area. And then I do help support the rest of the program staff that works with chapters like y'all. So nice to meet you. I'll pass it over to Victoria.
Hey everyone, thank you for spending your Saturday morning with us. As Joaquin mentioned, he's the program manager in North Texas. I am the program manager of community engagement in Houston. So we are counterparts. So our roles are pretty similar. And like he mentioned, with the ambassador program, we oversee that together, as that's one of our main roles in our job. But other than that, we also do a lot of community outreach for our regional events. We manage our volunteers and help people find ways to get involved with all of our different programs. So I will pass it over to Riley.
Hi, my name is Riley. I am the program manager of Mission Expansion in North Texas. And so I basically help set up chapters, support chapters that might be going through some challenges. And so it's really fun. I know some of y'all. So it's good to see y'all. And thank you for spending your Saturday. And then also I'm in charge of the Student Advisory Board for North Texas. And we are, little plug, we are taking applications right now. So I'd love to have you be a part of that. And I'll pass it over to Tucker.
Hello, everyone. My name is Tucker. I'm fairly new to the team, but I share a similar position to Riley, being a program manager of Mission Expansion, but I'm in Central Texas, specifically based in Austin area. So I'm looking forward to getting started, hopefully getting to meet a lot of you more and building more of a presence for Best Buddies in Austin and Central Texas. And I'll pass it to Courtney.
Awesome. Hi, everyone. My name is Courtney Lyons. I am the Deputy Director of Development here in North Texas. So I am in charge of fundraising and working on our big events like our Friendship Walk and our Gala. And I'm excited to be able to talk to you guys a little bit later about some of the fun events that you guys are going to be able to be involved with this year. So thank you. I will pass it over to Cheyenne.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Cheyenne Jock, and I'm an employment consultant for the North Texas team. I'm located in Waxahachie, and it's my job to help find jobs for our participants and work for competitive and integrated employment for all of our participants. I'm also on the internal Best Buddies DEI committee, and I'm excited to talk to you guys about some DEI information today. So I'm going to pass it over to Linda.
Thank you so much. I am Linda Kordek Milton, the very proud state director of Best Buddies here in Texas. And I am talking to you today from the Champion Film Salon International Film Festival that's taking place today in Frisco at the Hyatt Regency. And so if anybody's in the area, the films are happening all day today, and they are films about or by people with disabilities. And so in any case, that's where I am, but I am so glad to take some time to say hello to everybody. Thank you for all that you do. We can't do what we do with Best Buddies. We can't create inclusion if we don't have all of you amazing volunteers. So thank you so much, and I will pass this over to Kimberly.
Thanks, Linda. Hi, everyone. I'm Kimberly Bush. I am area director for Houston, and I covered Central Texas for a while, and I'm still kind of tag teaming that a little bit till we can find an area director in Central Texas to go support those chapters there. But Linda and I just wanted to jump on in the beginning for a few minutes just to say thank you to you, all of you. I'm excited about the college chapters. Last year, I told some of you guys that I spoke with that my goal is to engage our college chapters more. You guys are so wonderful at what you do, and you're so independent. You just need a little bit of guidance and support from us, but we want you to feel so engaged in what we're doing throughout the state, and we're trying to reach as many areas as possible, get back in person with our events. So I know that we said it last year, but for real this year, we're going to have an in-person walk in 2022 in Central Texas and in Houston and North Texas. So we're really excited about that. And we just want to thank you guys for everything you do. You're our leaders. You dedicate such a busy schedule to us, and we could not do any of this without you there to help us, make it happen. So thank you so much, everybody.
Awesome. Thank you, team. Now that you guys have met everyone, we are going to jump right in, make a good use of our time this Saturday. So I'm going to share my screen with you guys, and we will get started. Okay, give me 1 second.
I have one question.
Yes.
My other officers could not make it because I guess they didn't realize that they got the email. And because all of my officers are separated, so it's very hard to reach them on certain things. And they didn't get the information about the training, and they got it and they were like, what? And some of them couldn't make it. Is that okay?
Yes, we're recording the training, so anyone who couldn't make it today, they will be able to watch it back afterwards.
Okay, that's good. All right, thank you.
Okay, awesome. Sorry guys, give me 1 second to pull up our slides. All right, can everyone see my screen? Yes, Riley. Okay, great. Okay, so we are going to dive right in here. We're not going to spend too much time talking about the Best Buddies basics because this information is available to you guys on our website. So we are going to talk about the high level details of Best Buddies International, which is the international organization that we are part of. But if you guys ever want to take a deeper dive into our history, who our founder is, who our current leadership is, you guys can check out this information at bestbuddies.org. So just to quickly go over our mission, because that's so important, especially as you guys are part of Best Buddies. So Best Buddies is a global nonprofit 501c3 organization dedicated to establishing a global volunteer movement that creates opportunities for one-to-one friendships, integrated employment, leadership development, and inclusive living for individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities, or IDD. So I know it's a bit of a mouthful, but that is our mission. And we have 4 mission pillars through Best Buddies. So our mission pillars is kind of like the umbrellas for where our programs fall. So all of our programs through Best Buddies fall under a specific mission pillar. So our first mission pillar is one-to-one friendships, which you guys are all a part of. This includes our school friendship programs from middle schools, high schools, colleges. It also includes our online pen pal program, eBuddies, which you guys are all welcome to join. You can learn more about eBuddies on our website. And then also includes Citizens, which is our adult friendship program, which we've done a small launch of this in the North Texas area. And our community engagement program managers are looking at launching this program in other areas of the state. So after you guys graduate, if you wanted to stay involved with Best Buddies, you could likely join a citizens program once those are up and running in Texas. So our second mission pillar is integrated employment, which includes the Best Buddies Jobs program. So Cheyenne introduced herself earlier. She is a part of our jobs team, and they look at finding meaningful jobs for our participants with IDD. Our third mission pillar is leadership development, which includes our ambassador program, our student advisory boards here in Texas, and then also the International Council of the Young Leaders Council, or YLC. So we're gonna touch more on the ambassadors and the SAB later in this presentation. And then finally, our newest mission pillar is our inclusive living pillar, which includes our Best Buddies Living program, which is inclusive living for individuals with and without disabilities. And right now our living program is in Washington, D.C. and our headquarters is looking to open more living facilities across the U.S., but that's our first one that's currently up and running right now. So really quickly, I'm going to talk about some important dates for the semester before we jump into this presentation. And again, we'll be sending out this presentation as well as these important dates via email. So don't feel like you have to write them down right now. I just wanted to talk about a few of them. So coming up September 30th, our student advisory board applications are due. And again, we're going to touch on this a little bit later in the presentation, but I've sent out a few emails about it. So if you're interested in applying for the SAB, applications are due September 30th. In October, we recommend you guys host a training for all members that are matched in a one-to-one friendship. And we'll be giving you guys some tips for building healthy friendships later in the presentation. But we recommend you host a training for anyone who's matched in a friendship. October 17th in North Texas, we have our fall festival, which we're really excited about. It's going to be at Bishop Lynch High School. And then in the Houston area, we'll have our fall festival on October 24th. And you guys can get more information about that on our website. And again, I'll be sending it out via email as well. In November, on November 1st, that's our deadline for you guys to have your finalized matches in BB360 and your match party. A lot of our chapters have a match party around Halloween, do costumes and things like that. But yeah, just make sure that you guys have your matches and match parties done by November 1st. And then if you're in the North Texas area, Best Buddies is a beneficiary of the Plano Turkey Trot this year. So if you guys want to get up early on Thanksgiving morning and go run a 5K with your family, that will benefit Best Buddies. And again, that's in Plano. So kind of looking ahead to the spring, which is always a really busy season for Best Buddies. We will have Back to Best Buddies, which is our spring training, kind of like this one. We'll have our friendship ball. Best Buddies month is in March, and we'll also have our friendship walks in April, which Courtney is going to talk about later. And then we'll also have our chapter award ceremony. So this is really just a high level look at the year with Best Buddies, some important things to remember and some events, but of course you guys will kind of weave your own chapter events and chapter activities into this general outline of the year. Now I'm going to turn it over to Joaquin, who is going to talk about, I know you guys have a lot of questions about our new system this year, BB360.
Okay, so I'm going to share my screen in just a second. And but before I do that, most of you, if not all of you here, have already submitted an application on bestbuddies.org/join, which is great. And so will the rest of your chapter members. As far as navigating this new platform, BB360 instead of BBO, the old one that we used forever, this one should be a lot more easier to use, user-friendly, but there are still some bugs that we're working out. So if you're experiencing any issues, you can ask questions as I go through this kind of walkthrough. It's going to be very broad, so I'm not going to go too deep into it because there's a lot of things regarding this that you can access and have access to and can do for your chapters portal. But the main thing is there's a login link right there on the screen. You're going to need to copy and paste that whenever you want to log in to manage your chapter. And you're going to be able to manage applications, make matches, create events, all of that stuff. And if you ever have any issues, please reach out to the program manager that's assigned to you to answer any questions you may have about navigating the platform. So I'm going to share my screen now. Okay. All right, so when you log in, you are going to see something similar to this. Now, everything I do as a heads up during this kind of walkthrough is on a demo version, a sandbox version of BB360. I created a dummy account with access to the UNT chapter portal. So if I make matches between two of y'all in the crowd, that's not permanent. It's going to go away as soon as I log out, and all of the fake events that are on here as well. So when you log in, very top of the page are the main things that you need to be concerned about. Homepage, home tab, memberships, matches, events. More has this option called chatter. Not necessarily as important, but I'll discuss it a little bit. Scrolling down, you'll see a dashboard with information on the members in your chapter, the matches that have been made, the events, kind of those numbers as far as those categories are concerned, and you can run a report on that if you would like. Further down below are pending applications that are in the system for this academic year, and then this chatter feed. Don't worry about all that stuff for the time being. Just worry about these tabs up here, as well as where it has your chapter's name. So to start out, we're going to go to the memberships tab. You'll click on this, and if there's a bit of lag, I'm sorry, but right now we're lucky now and there's not. By default, it'll show your current memberships. So that'll show every approved application, pending application, action required, anything in general for applications to your chapter. And as you scroll down, you'll see all of the ones that are currently in the system. What you are probably going to want to do is go down to where it says pending applications. And that'll be anything that, if you have access to the chapter portal, if you're going through and approving applications, that's the one that you're going to want to select. And it'll show here what applications are still pending and some that say action required. For action required, that's something that a staff member will address. Usually in the application, there's a lot of checkboxes, a lot of information there, though it's been refined a bit with this new platform. And people, check off something accidentally, and that may require us to kind of check in with this person and make sure that they answered whatever it was correctly, and that there are no issues that we need to, be concerned about. And if there is, then address them then. So action required, we'll deal with that. Pending applications, that's on y'all, but we'll help out. So if you want to go to that person's application and eventually approve it, you click on their name there. And as you can see, it shows a bunch of information. You can check out what leadership role they have in your chapter, matches that they're currently a part of or have been in the past, their participation in events, and member updates. So scrolling down, you'll go to here where it says application status. And since y'all are college chapters, you guys don't need a parent to sign off on giving you permission. You're 18 years of age or older. But, kind of scroll down and see a couple of things. There's an emergency contacts, there's a phone number, you got a name as well. Going further on up, where it says buddy information, that'll list the name of the person that is matched up with this individual if they're being matched up, as well as information that'll be captured if you want to use this, a survey, a matching survey. And this is what it looks like. It's specific to the person that you're looking at, like their page, and they can put a little bio about themselves, their interests, how to best get a hold of them, their days that are best available to meet with their buddy, and then anything else that they need to let us know about. And they hit submit. I'm just going to go through here to click off a couple of things. And this will show up in their profile when they hit submit. Okay, hit refresh. So that's something else that you can use if you want to have another way of making a more appropriate match for your members. And so you can see all that information got filled up here. The other thing, if you want to collect membership updates, there's a form for that. You can copy and paste it and send it an email to them or a text. And it's pretty simple. Yes or no, are things going good? Give some details on what is or isn't, hit submit. And there's that. If you want to add a chapter leadership role to this individual, you click on the add affiliation link, and that'll give you a list of various options. If they're going to want to be the secretary for your chapter, you'd click that and hit submit. And if you want to grant access to somebody in your chapter to also view the chapter portal just like you, go in and do all the things that I'm showing y'all, you would click on grant login access, and they'll receive an email just like you did if you have access on creating a password and a username to log in to this. There's also an option to add a match to this individual, but I find the easier way to do it would be clicking right here where it has your chapter's name. I'm just giving it a second to load. But this is going to show you all of the members in 2 columns that can be matched up with and without IDD, and you can refine the matches that you want to make, as well as find that like a snapshot of the information that they may have filled out on a matching survey, so you have a better idea as to who would be a good match for who. Okay, so to do that, oh, it's not showing the option. There should be something that says matching tool right over here. For some reason it is not. Oh, here we go, match tool. And this is what it's going to look like. And you can refine that by a certain age range, male, female, non-binary, IDD or no IDD, and to whatever you want to do to make that match. And then you'd hit make match, and that would match up 2 individuals. So let's say I want to match up Daniel, who has an IDD, to somebody that does not, which is in this column. And let's just say I'm just going to click this one, make match. And it says pair successfully. And then you'll see that if you click on their information back where the memberships are, this is their buddy now. Not permanently, so that'll go away. The other thing is that there's a matches tab up here, and that'll show you all the current matches, former matches from previous years. So if you want to see that, you can do that there. And then events. What Ali previously mentioned, we would like y'all to do a training for anybody that's being matched up in a one-to-one friendship in the month of October. And you guys would be able to create an event, training for your chapter members on here. And you can share out the registration link for the people to sign up and allow us to collect that information and have them be notified, you know, that way of your training. It's taking a second to load. Okay, so this will show up any upcoming chapter events, all chapter events that have ever happened, ones that you recently viewed in previous events. I created one the other day. It has a nonsense name. Clicking on this, this is what you'll see. as far as its information that you can always edit even after you create it. What type of activity, start dates, who's hosting it. The host is always your chapter. Creating a registration link. You can see how many people register for it. Of course, no one, because it's a junk one. You can add people afterwards that attended but didn't sign up, and then take attendance. So all of those things. And to create one, you'll click this new button, put in the name. The host will be your chapter. Put in a start date, time, end dates, time, category. For the month of October, you guys are going to do a training. So put training. Event type is not necessary, but if you want to be more specific, it's a chapter training. Requiring a waiver, this adds an option, a checkbox on your registration form that, similar to the application, shows the code of conduct, Best Buddies COVID guidelines or procedures, and things of that nature, just making sure that as people register, they are saying, yes, I understand of all the expectations of attending this event. You can put yes or no if you want to require that or not. And then always click registration link if you want to create a registration link, and sending that out to people to sign up for. The description for the events, fun, location, school, misspelled school. But make sure you put that information in there. And since this is a training, you can see maybe there's something in here similar to matching training. Not looking at that right now in detail, but we'll just put other and then hit save. Oh, I have to put a statement. But it'll show up and show up right here. If you ever create an event and you need to delete it for any reason, you can always click this drop down and delete the event. And it'll get rid of it eventually when this loads up. Other than that, that's pretty much it. The only other thing is this chatter option, which is a group chats for chapter leadership across the country that you can join if you would like. And people post questions on there across the country. And you'll hopefully get answers as well from other chapter leaders or people that are also able to access this portal. I'm going to stop talking for a second. So if you have any questions, you can put them in the chats. Let's see. What do we need to do about matches if we need to change them? All I have seen is a way to mark matches to be deleted. By that, Lexi, do you mean like matching them up with somebody else? Like you made an incorrect match?
Yes.
Okay. So let me go to matches. So this one. I believe. Oh, matches. So on my screen, you can see the person that they were matched up with. This is the current status. They're currently matched up with this individual. I believe during this drop down, if you hit edit, you can dissolve the friendship. And if you do that, you would put an end dates as well, details as to why this is being eliminated. And let me put a reason here, lifestyle change, changes. And save.
So I wouldn't check the box there that says to be deleted.
That's oh, it's not allowing me to do anything right now. It's loading. I am not 100% sure off the top of my head
No, you would not click the to be deleted if it's a dissolved match, because we want to keep a record of that. If it was an accidental match, like it was just you put the wrong person, then in that case you would click the to be deleted button. Our administrators will take a look at that, and in the reason put incorrect match, and then they'll go ahead and delete that when they see that. But if it is a dissolved match, like the friendship didn't work out, then make sure that you keep it as a dissolved match and put notes as to why it didn't work.
Okay. Yeah, I was just messing around on it the other day and just matching people up, and I didn't realize that that was like a permanent thing, because the old website you could switch them up and it wasn't an issue. So
Oh, it's a good question. One thing I did forget to mention as far as approving matches, applications, because that's something that we would like whoever it is in your chapter that's going to be doing that. Right now, Best Buddies, they're in BB360, there's a bug that does not allow you to do that. They're currently trying to fix it as quickly as possible. Some people might be able to do so, but for the majority of individuals that are trying to approve applications, they're not able to. An error message pops up. And so if you've been trying to do that and you see what I'm about to show you pop up, so where it says application status, and you want to move that to approved, hit save, and this message here pops up, that's okay. It's just saying that it's just not able to for, I don't know, whatever reason, but our IT departments will, fix that eventually. In the meantime, though, it's just gonna have to fall on program managers to approve applications when necessary. And then when that bug is fixed and this little error message does not pop up anymore, we will let you know as soon as possible so that you guys are able to do that. But just a heads up in case any of y'all have tried to approve applications and this pops up for you. Again, I'm not sure if that pops up for everybody, but that's just something that's been brought up in previous conversations with our IT department. And that is about it. Any other questions? No? Okay, I'm going to stop sharing my screen then. But again, if you have any questions on navigating BB360, for sure reach out to one of your program managers and we'll help out to the best of our ability. And I'll pass it off to the next person.
Okay, thanks, Joaquin. Yeah, we know that it's the transition from BBO to BB360 is a bit different for our chapter officers who are used to using BBO, but please just let's be patient, have a positive attitude, and if you guys have questions or problems, like you can reach out to any member of our team and we can help you guys. Once we all get the hang of this, it'll be a lot easier to manage than BBO. I know you guys, if you guys had a heavy hand in managing BBO in past years, you know that there are a lot of bugs, a lot of problems, and so BB360 is going to be great once we're all used to using it and learning it. So just hang in there, and any member of our team is happy to hop on a screen share with you guys to take you through any problems you might be having. So just keep in touch with your program manager, and yeah, it'll be great. So one question that I have gotten a couple times is chapter presidents or officers asking for login information. So please note that your BBO login information does not work for BB360. So you guys need to submit an application on bestbuddies.org/join. Your program manager will go and give you admin access if you're a chapter president, and then you will get an email from BB360 with login instructions. If you guys need, if chapter presidents, if you guys need an additional member of your team on the admin side of BB360, let us know and we'll help you with that. But we have a limited number of logins. So not every single member of your officer team is going to need to have the admin side of things, but if you guys do have a vice president or a secretary or someone who is going to be helping manage matches or anything like that, we can definitely add them on there. But we don't want to give admin access to everyone. Okay, and so now I'm going to turn it over to Riley.
Okay, so I'm going to talk about planning your fall semester. So I think it's super important to get a game plan together, get with your chapter leadership, and just kind of decipher what the semester is going to look like. Doing this will ensure that it's smooth and successful, and then you're not frantic all semester. So what we need to map out for the semester is chapter structure, and this would look like, when are we going to have officer meetings? When are we going to have chapter meetings? When are events going to be, and spreading those out. That way you understand, how things are going to work, the process of, just building your chapter, setting up goals for, goals can be for anything. How many members we really want to join this semester, how many events we want to hold, how much we want to fundraise. And things like that. And then, and also even just engagement. I think that one's huge. It's important to get a lot of members and, grow your chapter every year, but engagement and, having people who are active and really want to truly be a part of Best Buddies and come to all the events. And I think is really important too. Officer roles, just kind of deciphering, okay, who's going to do what. Sometimes things are obvious, sometimes they're not. And especially the bigger your chapter gets, the more you have to delegate, because one person, just cannot do it all. Meeting times, match party, of course. I know some schools do want to keep it the same every year, and that's great. Or if you want to change it up every year, try to think of something new and exciting. It's totally up to y'all. And then chapter events, just ensuring they're all inclusive, age appropriate, and at least once a month. Fundraising, of course, is important. And then also one thing that I think we all kind of forget is to map around. So, Best Buddies holds our own events like Fall Festival. So making sure that you're mapping your events around the large Best Buddy events to then make sure your members can go to all of them and figure out what works best for their schedule, and also encouraging them to attend. And you'll be able to meet people in your area, which is really cool, and talk to other students, and just really fun. And then lastly, communication. Communication, of course, is so important. You can't have a thriving chapter without it. So just kind of distinguishing, how are we going to talk to members, parents, admin, program managers, and local community? They're all so important for different reasons. And you can have several different types of communication, and that's completely okay. I mean, I would even encourage it, because some people really work well with email or text or GroupMe. And so figuring out what works best for your chapter. So then we go to member recruitment, and this is, oh my gosh, so much fun. I love member recruitment. And I think it's one of the most fun things, because you can really be creative, and it's so rewarding to spend a lot of time and hard work on something and then see the reward of it and see your chapter growing. So some different recruitment tactics: eye-catching posters, promotional materials. Of course, those are so important to hang all around campus. And then I know like a lot of colleges have specific like admin buildings, and so putting them there where maybe new students or freshmen are coming to look, and specifically knowing those areas. Informational meetings discuss the friendship, leadership, and impact aspects. And I know that one of the clubs I joined in college, it was only because I went to an informational meeting and then I fell in love with it. And so holding those to discuss what Best Buddies is, and deciphering, what makes us different and why you love being a part of Best Buddies and why they should too. Advertise on social media, of course. Social media, it just plays a huge role in everyone's lives. And so, working on Instagram and Facebook, and also getting creative, make a TikTok of why you love Best Buddies, or maybe put in several videos of previous events that you've had. Just get creative with it. Even Snapchat. I mean, there's so many different ways, so utilize all the social media that you can. Attend freshman orientations. I know like Texas A&M has fish camp, and so all the freshmen are in one place at one time, and that never happens. And so those are the perfect way to talk to incoming people who are already looking for a place to join, who want to get involved. And so just sitting down, talking to them, explaining what it is, and the events and how fun it is, and just making it exciting. Tabling on your campus, this looks different for every school, so kind of relate it to how your school does it. I know at A&M we would paint these huge, it wasn't posters, they were like bed sheets. It's kind of random, and they're huge, and we would all hold them all around campus. And so then if someone walks up to you, you can talk about it. And so just kind of relating it to whatever your school does and what works for your school. And then asked to speak before or after Greek Life chapter meetings, and also other organizations. This is a great way. And this can go towards recruitment and trying to gain new members. And also if you're having a big fundraiser, a big event where you want the community to come and enjoy and hang out, this is the best way. You can get so many people involved, which is amazing. And I know I was involved in several different organizations. So a lot of people like to be involved in several things. And then, of course, rep your Best Buddies merchandise. Who doesn't love a good t-shirt? I know I do. And so make sure you're wearing that on campus. If someone asks you about it, or if they compliment your shirt, or whatever it is, make sure you talk about it and just say, hey, oh yeah, I'm a part of Best Buddies. You should be too. And just always being willing and ready to have those conversations about Best Buddies and what it means to you. And also, lastly, there's a ton of resources on BBU. It's Best Buddies University. And there's actual recruitment flyers where you can input your school's name and like contact information, and it does it all for you. It looks very aesthetic, and it's super nice and helpful to have that resource. Okay, so are there any questions about planning your semester or recruitment? Okay, Zoe, you got it. Yeah.
So, our struggle is like we did that over the summer, and we got people to join our group me. And due to some other things, we're still working some kinks out with our organization. But like I got them in the group me, they joined their mind, and then when I was sending messages to them about submitting their art, we have a personal Google form to keep track of our information to reach like out to them. And all of a sudden they started like just leaving the group me, and now it's just my officers and like 4 or 5 other girls. And like I don't know, how do you keep them in, like once you get them until you start things, how do you like keep them wanting to stay until we start up doing events and stuff?
Yeah, that is really hard, and I think COVID made that really hard too. But I would say try to make it as fun as possible. I know some of my favorite memories were staying up late and painting, those posters. So I think trying to get them involved with your chapter and even the recruitment process. And so delegating tasks of, hey, if you go to the store and you go buy these posters, then, this person go get paint, and then let's meet at, the campus library and do all this together to really make people feel involved and get their excitement levels up. And then I guess just also keeping the constant communication. So, if you go maybe 2 or 3 weeks without messaging anyone, then people kind of lose interest and forget, and we all have busy lives. So I think keeping that constant communication is really important, but I know it's really hard, and it's hard to keep that engagement. But I would say, those 2 things.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. Does anyone else have any questions? All right, I'm glad. I will pass it off to the next person.
Okay, thank you, Riley. Right now, we're going to talk about engaging your college campus. So this is one thing that we really felt was important for our college chapters, because as you guys know, there's so many different organizations and clubs and activities to do on your college campus. So I know that I've heard from chapter presidents in the past, or chapter officers, that it feels like Best Buddies gets lost. So we're going to talk about some tips on how to engage your college campus as a whole. So, okay, so my first tip is work with student government. So if you guys haven't started working with your student government, I would definitely suggest it. And it looks different on every campus. So take everything with a little bit of a grain of salt of, you know, it's going to look it's not all going to look the same for every single university or college. But oftentimes with student government, you can apply for funding. So a lot of times they've got a budget that they can allocate out to student organizations. So that is a great way to apply for funding. Do a little bit of research with your student government and see if that's an option. It's not an option for every single college campus out there, but for a lot of them it is, and a lot of student orgs don't know about it. So do a little bit of research, attend a meeting so that you can learn what that process looks like. If you haven't already, make sure that you become an official registered student organization on your campus, which often has a lot of perks like free meeting spaces on campus. Like you can use library rooms or lecture halls for your meeting spaces. A lot of times they'll list all registered student organizations on the university website. So if you have new students that are looking to get involved on campus, they can explore what Best Buddies is and see that on the website. And then it also provides the ability to network with other campus organization leaders. So yeah, definitely you should be networking with other leaders from other organizations, because you could always work together. And I'm going to talk about collaborating with other organizations here in a second. But it's always a great idea to network with other campus leaders. Maybe you guys are struggling with recruitment and there's another organization and they seem to have 1 million people who are interested. You can connect with those chapter leaders and see, how are you guys getting people? What are you guys doing? Like, can we work together, or can you give us some tips on how to do that? It's just always a good idea to be networking. And then finally, I would suggest attending. A lot of times student government will have like open meetings. So attend student government meetings and learn protocols, especially for things like funding or other like advantages of student government. There's oftentimes a deadline and certain forms that you have to fill out. So if you miss that deadline, it's kind of like you're just out of luck. So make sure that you guys are learning the protocols that are specific to your campus. Again, I can't really give a blanket statement of like, this is exactly what you have to do by when, because it looks different. But definitely look into your student government, see if there is opportunity there for Best Buddies, and get engaged with that, because that's also just going to help you be more well known on campus. So think about how many people are in student government, and then you're there as a Best Buddies rep. That's just helping get the Best Buddies word out more. So my second tip is to collaborate with other student organizations. So you guys, you can host an event or joint fundraisers with other campus organizations. You guys can ask about, when I was in college at the University of Oklahoma, sometimes we would have representatives from a different organization come to a meeting that I was a part of, and they would speak and kind of do a little recruitment pitch, and see if you guys can do that. Like, hey, okay, like this organization, this business org, you guys can come advertise here, and then we'll go advertise there. I would also suggest, and again, this is going to look different on every campus and how like engaged your Greek life is with your overall campus life. But try to work with Greek life if you can. So a lot of Greek organizations work with nonprofits for fundraisers. A lot of times they're looking to give back, and hey, we're a nonprofit, we're an official 501c3, so we are the perfect organization for them to work with, host a philanthropy night for, do like a programmatic event with your members with disabilities. It's just a great way to, again, grow your network. Some Greek organizations have national philanthropies with a mission that is in line with ours. So I know a few Greek organizations, they work with the IBD population. So it would be a great connection there for you guys to kind of work with them and host programmatic events that way. And then also a lot of Greek organizations have really large budgets. So if you guys don't have a lot of money to work with, see if you can host a joint event with a Greek organization, and they can kind of provide the funding for that. Also, another great way is to work with other campus organizations is to invite other student orgs to create their own team or volunteer for the Friendship Walk. And Courtney's going to talk about Friendship Walk later in the presentation when she talks about fundraising. But we've seen a lot of colleges invite other either Greek organizations or volunteer and service-centered organizations to either participate in the Friendship Walk or come as a group to volunteer. So again, that's just another great way to get the word out, get more recognition for Best Buddies on your campus. And then my last tip is to create campus awareness. So Best Buddies Month is in March, and that's when also when we have Spread the Word Inclusion, which it was formerly known as Spread the Word to End the Word. Same mission, just a little bit of a different branding on it. So March is a great way to, or a great reason to launch an awareness campaign. And if you guys start planning that now, you can make it really big on your campus. So a lot of my colleges will do tabling. So if you're not familiar with like what tabling is, like Riley said, it can look different. But a lot of times you guys have like a student union, or at OU, we had we called it the South Oval, and that's where a lot of buildings were and a lot of foot traffic coming through. So we'd set up tables and have flyers or have like giveaways. You could like spin a wheel. Like you can get really creative of how you kind of reel people in to come learn about Best Buddies. A lot of my colleges also do banner signing for Spread the Word. So you guys can have a big banner out there that says, I will not use the R word, and then people can come and sign it. And then a lot of times, like you can put your banner up somewhere like in the library or in the union and just help create that awareness. Last year, I know the University of Texas got published in their university's newspaper, and we were able to share that. So that's another great way to, again, just increase awareness, pitch a story to your newspaper, like online forum about like one of your friendship matches and how they're, how they're flourishing this year, or talk about ending the use of the R word or inclusive employment. There are a ton of different things that you guys can talk about in a university newspaper. So I would definitely suggest pitching that and reaching out to your newspaper or online newspaper at your university. And then also another great way to create awareness is to utilize social media. So highlight your members with IDD or your friendship matches on social media. You could do giveaways to get people to follow you. You could have your members repost stuff on their Instagram story. There's a ton of ways now that we've got Instagram stories and Reels and TikTok, and I definitely suggest that you guys have fun with that. You guys can create a social media committee to help get new content going. But yeah, I think there's so many ways that we can create campus awareness for our mission. And also that can get people interested in Best Buddies, and maybe that will make them want to join you guys. So one other thing I wanted to mention was recruiting or publicizing Best Buddies in schools or majors that align with Best Buddies. So education classes, special education classes, talk about Best Buddies there, and that's a great way to kind of loop people into the Best Buddies mission. So if I missed anything that you guys do on your campus, drop it in the chat. There's so many different ways to kind of increase your campus engagement and increase awareness for Best Buddies, so that you guys aren't just kind of falling by the wayside with so many other campus organizations. So if I missed anything, I would suggest dropping it in the chat. Okay, so I'm now going to turn it over to Victoria, who is going to talk about host sites.
All right, so yeah, managing your host site is something that is sometimes an interesting partnership to navigate. So we're going to dive into what a host site is, as most of you probably already know this, but just so that we can talk about it a little bit deeper. A host site is our college program's greatest partner in fostering friendships and leadership opportunities for adults with IDD. So, every host site looks a little bit different. There's tons of different host sites, especially in, Texas as a state. So these are organizations that work really closely with individuals with IDD and they provide a variety of services for them. So some of these can look like, inclusive living. Sometimes they, like the Greater Arc of Houston, for example, they just offer different, extracurricular activities for their participants with IDD. So every host site can look a little different, but it is important that whenever you are partnered with a host site that, you have a great relationship with them. So that's going to be mainly what we're going to talk about today. So as far as host sites and how they help us grow our mission, whenever you're working with a host site, it's really important that mutually you understand that overall your goal is to help these individuals develop meaningful relationships, because that's your goal overall within a Best Buddies chapter as it is. So whenever you partner with them and they partner with you, it becomes a mutually and trusting relationship. So it's important to remember that, you're building this mission together. And also important to note that all of your members with IDD and your Best Buddies chapter do need to be affiliated with a host site. So whenever you have a host site, it's not always the easiest thing to navigate. So laying that good foundation at the beginning of building this partnership is really key. So just starting out, if anybody has, experience working with the host site, good things, bad experiences, just challenges in general, if you want to, drop those in the chat and we can talk about them. But I went to LSU, so I ran our college chapter, so I know what it looks like to, be partnered with a host site. And it's a really great way to, build relationships with your participants because they work so closely with those individuals. They know everything about them. And that can also be very helpful whenever you're making those friendship matches. So some challenges of working with the host site, it's important to understand that you are relying on one another in this relationship that you're building. You're relying on them to provide you the members that you can, develop relationships with, but they're also trusting you with their participants as well. So that's why it's so important to build this great relationship and, lay that foundation, as I mentioned, really early on. So if anybody has any experience with their host site that they would like to share, feel free to do so. But in the past, sometimes they're just not always the easiest to communicate with. Getting in touch with their staff sometimes is a bit challenging. And that's one of the biggest things in building a relationship is having that open line of communication. And as I mentioned, having this mutually and trusting relationship with one another, sometimes host sites are very protective over their participants. So just letting them know that, your goal for them is to, help them build these awesome relationships with others, and just being super transparent with one another will really help them trust you as an organization as well. So does anybody have anything that they would like to share? If not, we can just move on, or you can drop them in the chat, or if you ever have any, positive things or, some challenges that you need to work through, that's why the staff is here to help you and give you these tips so that way you can be super upfront and transparent with your host site, because overall your goals are the same. So building a great relationship with your host site, as I mentioned, is super key in having a really well-working matching chapter. Being that they are the main contact for the participants, it's essential that the chapter leaders have that open line of communication, which, as I mentioned, is not always the easiest thing to do. But that is so essential so that you feel comfortable reaching out to them, and they also feel comfortable reaching out to you. Also to ensure that, all of the correct paperwork. I know that getting partnered with a host site is not just happening at the snap of your fingers. There are things and, paperwork and logistical things that you have to get prepared before you can start matching with their members. So just having that open line of communication so you make sure that you're covering all your bases is also super important. And also just discussing, different experiences with the participants and things like that. You want to have that open line of communication so that way you are understanding the best way to match their participants with your members. And just be able to express any concerns or questions that you might have. So obviously you want to avoid any sort of challenges that may arise. So I wanted to kind of go over some things that would be helpful for you in moving forward with the host site. And I know a lot of you, you may have one host site, you may have multiple, so sometimes it can be a little overwhelming. But it's important, as we mentioned, or as I mentioned, good communication. Having that open line of communication, I mentioned why that is so key. If you're not communicating with them, it's going to be really hard for you to build really meaningful and really, great relationships with your members with IDD. Also, I think setting expectations early on is great for any relationship. You just want them to know that your goal is to integrate them into your organization so that y'all can, do all of these great things, build great relationships, help them interact with others. But also at the same time, as a chapter, every chapter looks different. The way that you run things and the way that they run, their host site and their organization is sometimes a little bit different. So having those expectations be very clear from the beginning is really important. So that way, what you're getting out of them and they know what they're getting out of you, and you can talk about that. And what is the best way to communicate? How often do they like to communicate? Some host sites are very involved and they want to say that way, but that's not always the way that you want to run your chapter. So finding a good middle ground and compromising and recognizing that you are allies and you're doing this together and building this mission as a team is super important. And then also just being really transparent. I think that as I mentioned, this is a host site, but it's also you're working with people. So whenever you are working, with people, you're building relationships, you have to look at it that way, and how you would, develop any other relationship. You want to be very honest with them, and you want them to be honest with you. So transparency is also really important. And laying all of these to set the tone early on. You don't want to, build this partnership with the host site, never have an open line of communication, never know what they're expecting from you, or, what you're going to be expecting or what they'll be expecting from you. It's important to talk about these things super early on, so that way that you can build this partnership with them. All of your members will be able to successfully build friendships with you and your members. So yeah, I think that host sites can be kind of tricky, but overall, I think it's good to have these great relationships with them, because in the end, this is a mutually beneficial relationship that you're building with your host site. So does anybody have any questions or, any challenges that they've experienced that they'd like to talk about that we can help you with?
I do.
Yes, Zoe.
So I'm from Sam Houston State University. I don't know if y'all know, that's from Huntsville, Texas.
Mhm.
And we have a very, very, very small population. And it's very difficult for us to get a host site running, especially because last year they weren't able to do much. So I met with Huntsville ISD and they had me make a PowerPoint to send out to their teachers. And that was maybe a month ago. And I reached back out to them maybe 3 or 4 times, and I have yet to get anything back solid. From the she's like the person over special education for the district, and she has yet to get back to me. Do I continue to email her? Do I call her? Or because she's the only yes I've received on host site.
Okay. So have you communicated with her in the past? Like, have you successfully been able to, contact her directly? And was that over email or was that via phone?
It was over email and phone, like a mixture of both.
Okay. So I would say if you haven't gotten any response from her via email, I don't think it would be a bad idea to try and get in touch with them via phone. I know with COVID, everybody's doing things very differently, so it's hard to be on the same page. So if you can, I always like to talk to people via phone anyways. So if you have a phone number that you've contacted her in the past, I think that would be great. But if you can't get in touch with her directly, maybe going online and looking at other contacts, that would be good. And maybe seeing if you could get in touch with somebody else at the host site and say, hey, I've been trying to get in touch with this person. We've communicated in the past. This is how we've done so. I haven't received any response. Maybe there's something going on where she's working in a different facet of the organization. And, maybe some things just like haven't been relayed properly. So you just never know. So I don't think that they're They typically aren't just like not answering phones or emails. There's probably something else going on. But I would suggest trying to get in touch with somebody else, seeing, oh yeah.
Hey, so yeah, I'm just gonna pop in real quick to say, like, whenever you're looking for a new host site, definitely involve your program manager in that, because we are going to help facilitate that. So if you guys don't have an established relationship, like, work with your program manager to do that, because we know what organizations kind of fit our guidelines for a host site. So definitely reach out to your program manager, which I believe at this time is Riley, and she will help you establish that relationship. So we are happy to do that outreach for you when establishing a new host site. Victoria, those are great tips for if we already have an established relationship with someone. And again, if anyone has an established relationship and you're having trouble getting in contact, like, loop in your program manager so that we can help you guys. So Zoe, I definitely say reach out to Riley, and she can help you get that relationship up and running, because we just want to make sure that before you are doing outreach to an organization that might not fit our standards for a host site, and we have to have them fill out a host site contract and other things like that. So just loop in your program manager and we can help you with that relationship.
Also, follow-up question. One, when I did send her a PowerPoint of like what Best Buddies is, one of the parents or teachers, I guess, reached out to me and was saying that because it's with the only available host site is a school district because it is a small town. And they said that at their high school, they had a similar program with their students. And they were wondering, is there any way we can incorporate their students with our chapter?
Yeah, so I feel like this is a pretty specific instance. So I think it might be better for us to offline about it. But one thing with working with college students is everyone that's affiliated with the college chapter has to be over 18 years of age. So I'm not quite sure what age group you guys have been talking about. But if they have a transition program, we've been doing a lot of partnerships there. So I'd say let's hop on a call with Riley offline so we can kind of talk through it, because I know that it's a small town, so we just want to make sure that everything is good to go before we start up a partnership.
Okay, thank you so much, and sorry for bothering everyone who that's for being so specific,
Oh, no, you had great, those are great questions, and other people might have had the same thing. So again, if you guys are having trouble with the host site or feel like you might need a new host site, loop in your program manager and we'll work through that together, because we know it can be tough to get in contact with people and have all of the right information. So yeah, no, those are great questions, Zoe. And we just want to make sure that everything's good to go before we start up a partnership.
Alrighty, well, I think that you are going to take it away on healthy friendships now, Allie.
Yes, okay, so I know earlier we mentioned that you guys that we would love for you guys to host a training for anyone who's matched in a one-to-one friendship, so that we can talk about how to foster healthy friendships. So we're going to talk about a few things that can help get your friendship matches off on the right foot, and also so we can build lifelong friendships. That's the goal here, right? So I'm going to give you guys some tips on setting appropriate boundaries, navigating maybe some difficult conversations, and learning best practices to help build these thriving friendships. So my first tip for you guys is to participate in pre-match activities. So as you guys saw on BB360, just like on BBO, there is a match survey. So have anyone who's interested in a friendship fill out that match survey, so that we know their interests, what kind of communication methods they like, and then also host a pre-match mixer, so that your members with and without IDD can get to know each other, and we can help encourage those organic relationships. So if there's two people that just hit it off right away, they've got a great friendship, they've got great energy together, we definitely want to encourage that organic friendship. We don't want to try to force anything. So you can see who is really getting along well and help that make your match decisions. And then also another tip. Sorry, I've got to move my chat so I can see, I'm sharing my screen so I can't see my words, is new relationships and new friendships are hard. And so we've got to encourage all of our members to do the work of new friendships. So every relationship takes time and effort. And so a great way to kind of kick off your relationship is just to focus on what you have in common. So if you both love movies, go to the movies, have a Netflix watch party, do things that you have in common. And that's just a great way to kind of kick off your friendship. Also, it can be a little intimidating to hang out one-on-one, or even if you guys are doing virtual things, like be on a Zoom call one-on-one. So hang out with 1 or 2 other buddy pairs in a group of 4 or 6. And that can help everyone feel comfortable in building these relationships. So again, we shouldn't expect just because we match 2 people in a friendship with best buddies that they're going to be immediate friends. And that's almost never the case in real life. So you've got to do the work of new friendships. You've got to put a little bit of time and effort, maybe be a little bit uncomfortable at first. And really that's what's going to help you grow your relationship over the long haul. And then finally, communication is key. As either a member with or without IDD, we should encourage open communication and set boundaries ahead of time, so that if we do encounter anything, maybe we've already talked about it in advance and it's not something that we're panicking and trying to figure out what to do. So I'm going to talk about setting boundaries. So I would suggest that every single friendship match has a discussion about boundaries right when they're matched. So maybe in the first time they're hanging out or seeing each other, I would encourage them to have this discussion. So what is the best method of communication for both parties? So do they prefer text messages? Do they like FaceTiming? Do they like talking on the phone? That's something that's important to discuss. What times are appropriate to call or text? So sometimes we've had members that will call their buddy in the middle of the night, really early in the morning. Sometimes we've got different schedules. So it's great to set a time period of okay, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. is a great time for me to talk, but anytime after that I'm sleeping or I've got to get up early for work. So definitely talk about that, as well as, hey, if you don't get a text back from me right away, no need to send another one. I promise I'll text you back as soon as I can, so we can avoid the spam texting. What physical contact is appropriate? This is important in a typical year, of course. Do you like high fives? Do you like fist bumps? Do you like hugs? But also, especially with COVID, we need to be sure that everyone that's involved in the friendship is appropriate with either seeing each other in person, or would they prefer virtual engagements? Do they only want to do things outside? Social distancing, masks, all of that is super important. So it's important for people that are matched in a friendship to discuss what they're comfortable with, what their level of comfort is there. And then also, if necessary, include a parent or a host site coordinator on these conversations so that, you've got another person there that can help kind of mediate if needed. It's also really important to discuss expectations for the friendship. So when you've got super, super high expectations and maybe the other person doesn't know that, it can lead to disappointment, and it can lead to maybe one party feeling like, oh, I'm not getting everything out of this that I expected to. So a couple of expectations to discuss would be, how often do you expect to see each other outside of school? Or outside of Best Buddies, chapter events that you guys have? How often do you expect to call or text one another? Do you guys expect to text 3 times a week, or do you expect a text once a week or a phone call once a week? I think that's an important aspect to discuss. And then, are there any other unspoken expectations you or your buddy have for the friendship? What kind of activities do you guys want to do together? What are you expecting to get out of the friendship? And I know it seems like, oh my gosh, this is kind of a lot to talk about at first, but I promise that this will help set you off on the right foot, so that you're not having to play the guessing game of, oh, is this too much? Am I, do they want to see me more? Do they want to see me less? If you guys kind of get these questions out of the way at the beginning, and you can either or you can also like organize a chapter event where you guys are like prompting your matches with these questions. I think that's a great idea, so that you make sure that everyone discusses them, so that we don't, 3-4 months down the road have an issue where we've got to dissolve a friendship that could have, like, these issues could have been avoided. Okay, so what do I do when something makes me uncomfortable? So this can be for either party of the friendship match, a member with IDD or without IDD. So communicate with your buddy first and foremost. So if the one party of the friendship match has done something that makes the other uncomfortable, they need to talk to each other, because they may not know that what they're doing is making the other uncomfortable. And this is with any relationship in life, if this is with any typical friendship, if someone's doing something that makes you uncomfortable and you don't talk to them about it, how are they going to know to change that behavior? So first and foremost, communicate. The parties need to communicate with each other. Okay, so then if the behavior doesn't change, that's when we can involve a host site coordinator or a parent on these conversations, and together create an action plan on how to handle the situation. And then finally, like if we've talked to both parties, if we've involved someone of an authority figure, and the behavior continues, then that's when we can look at either making a different match between the two parties, or unmatching the individual that has like problematic behavior. But it's really important that we communicate from the beginning. Like as soon as something happens that's made someone uncomfortable, let's address it and not let it continue. And which can, a lot of times the behavior can be modified. So I'll give an example. I had a college chapter last year where it was a male member with IDD that was matched with a female without IDD, and the male would often make comments about the like female's appearance, and she really didn't like that, but he did it a few times and she didn't say anything to him. And then she approached the chapter leadership and said, I want a different match. I don't want to be matching this friendship. But when we haven't even talked to the individual that has that behavior and haven't told them that that's not appropriate, then there can be a lot of hurt feelings if we're already just going to dissolve the match. They can be confused. They can say, oh, I didn't even know that this was an issue. So that's why it's important to communicate from the get-go and follow these steps and follow these protocols, so that everyone that's involved in the friendship can have an opportunity to make it work. And then my last slide for healthy friendships is treating your buddy like a peer. So we like to say best buddies is in the business of friendship and not mentorship. So, we are not big brothers, big sisters. We are not acting in a way of we are a mentor to them. We are looking for friendships, for peer-to-peer, one-to-one friendships for between people with and without IDD. So your buddy is your peer. They're around your same age typically. So make sure that you are treating them like you would any other friendship. Sometimes in Best Buddies, we'll see a lot of times with like our high schools, but this can happen in colleges as well, is infantilization, which means treating someone as a child or in a way which denies their maturity in age or experience. So don't assume that you know what types of activities or interests your buddy has. Don't assume that they like a certain TV show, a certain movie. When in doubt, ask them. Ask them what their interests are so that you don't have to assume anything. And then additionally, don't assume that you know the needs or accommodations of your buddy. So if you are partnered with an individual that uses a wheelchair, don't assume that you need to get the door for them, to grab their things for them. Ask them or involve a parent or advisor in these conversations of what accommodations they would like for you to make and which ones they would like to do on their own. Again, this is a peer. We are not caretakers. We are not mentors. We are friends. So just make sure that when you're educating your members on how to treat one another, that this is a big thing that we talk about. Okay, so if you guys have any questions, please feel free to pop them in the chat. And in the meantime, I'll be looking at the chat and we are going to go ahead and move on to Best Buddies leadership. So we talked about our mission pillars, talked about friendship. The leadership pillar is another again, mission pillar of Best Buddies that we definitely want to talk about. So I'm going to pass it over to Tucker to talk about inclusive chapter leadership.
Yeah, thank you. So for this slide, it starts with chapter officers should include members with and without IDD. When given the opportunity to be a leader, it can oftentimes enable individuals to be confident in their authentic selves. And when a member is able to feel authentic and confident, they'll be more likely to share their perspective. And in an organization and a chapter like this for Best Buddies, different perspectives and insights are really essential for a successful and sustainable chapter. And it also reinforces kind of the various goals of Best Buddies for these chapters, which is, promoting equity, inclusiveness, and empowerment to everyone involved. And the buddy director is a required officer position, and that is a member with IDD, but also there can be officers that do have IDD, and they can also fulfill those roles. And that's just as important. This is just one step that you can take to have a more inclusive chapter. If a student with IDD is interested in a leadership role, but may not be completely up for being a buddy director or the buddy director, your chapter does have the flexibility for members with IDD to be in those leadership positions. And I really encourage that, because being proactive about including additional members with IDD in these leadership roles will set a really positive and inclusive tone for the semester and the year ahead. And then whenever you're planning officer meetings and activities that the officers will be involved with, make sure that the officers with IDD are accommodated for and included. As leaders, this should definitely be just one of the basic steps, and it's really never too soon to get into the mindset of prioritizing this for every meeting, for friend gatherings, et cetera. I think this is where Best Buddies is incredibly valuable. Being able to understand that any meeting may call for different approaches and accommodations will instill some really great habits that will be essential to your own leadership development, even outside of the Best Buddies sphere. But that's it for this slide. I believe the next one is on the Student Advisory Board.
Okay, awesome, thank you. Yeah, we're going to chat about the Student Advisory Board really briefly here. Again, this is something I mentioned earlier in the presentation, but the Student Advisory Board is specific to Texas, and specifically we have one Student Advisory Board in North Texas, so the greater Dallas-Fort Worth area, then we have one in the Houston area as well. So what is a Student Advisory Board? This is a group of leaders, Best Buddies chapter leaders, who work to bridge the gap between the Best Buddies student experience and the staff perspective. So you get to work with other passionate leaders on initiatives for Best Buddies in Texas. So some examples of past initiatives has been creating resources for chapter members, opening up new Best Buddies chapters, creating social media content that goes live on our pages. Just a lot of different diverse things, and it's specific to what this group specifically wants to work on. So we'll have a big brainstorming session of different ideas, and we will kind of take those and run with it for the year. So who can apply? So it's high school and college chapter leaders. So last year we had one representative from Rice University, I think Madhu is on here, who worked on the Houston board, and then one from SMU that was on the North Texas board. So we would love to see college students apply. It's a really great way to grow your professional experience and grow your leadership skills. You get to network with staff and then also contribute to regional Best Buddies events. So we're really excited for this year. The Houston and North Texas SABs are comprised of 8 to 10 students. So it's really small, and you get to work on initiatives that excite you. The application process. So our applications are live. I know I've sent out several emails about this. but they close on September 30th. So make sure you guys get your applications in. You guys will participate in a Zoom interview. We'll announce selections on October 15th. And then the term is the academic year. So when we announce in October until May of 2022. And again, this is a great way to build your resume, to work on things that are greater than just your chapter. It's regionally making an impact. So if you have any questions about the Student Advisory Board, you can reach out to myself or Riley, who oversees the SAB in North Texas. How do you know which SAB you should apply to? Yeah, so the SABs are in Houston and also in North Texas. So unfortunately, if you guys are located outside of those areas, we do meet in person. We didn't last year, it was virtual because of COVID, but we'll be meeting in person this year. So if you guys are located outside of those metro areas, you can't participate in the SAB. And we hope to be launching student advisory boards in other locations. But right now, this is just for any chapters that are located within the Houston area in North Texas. Any other questions about the Student Advisory Board? Okay, awesome. We will keep moving, and I'm going to pass it over to Victoria and Joaquin to introduce our ambassador speaker.
All right, so we are going to be talking a little bit about ambassadors and what that looks like in Texas. But first, we are going to hear from one of our very long time Best Buddies ambassadors, Tommy. I'm pretty sure Tommy is on here. So Tommy, if you can hear me, you can unmute and maybe introduce yourself to everybody. It looks like oh, can you hear us, Tommy?
Yes.
Okay, great. Do you want to introduce yourself and tell everybody a bit about yourself and Best Buddies ambassadors?
Sure. Hi, I'm Tommy Besson, and I have been in a best.
Oh, I think he is muted.
Wait, I think he's back. Can you hear us, Tommy? I think we might be having internet issues.
Oh. Yes. Yeah,
okay.
Okay. Am I ready?
Yeah, we can hear you now, Tommy.
Okay, I'm ready.
Okay.
Hi everyone. My name is Tommy Besson, and I have been in a Best Buddy for 5 years now.
So sorry, Tommy, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Hello, my name is Tommy Besson. After I graduated from the Woodlands High School of Best Buddies, I became a Best Buddies ambassador. I have been an ambassador for 5 years. When I saw Anthony Candy Shriver talking about inclusion and friendships, I knew this was something I want to be a part of. I love Best Buddies because it makes me feel included. I love making new friends, and I have been able to build leadership skills and advocate for myself. You should join the ambassador program because it will teach you how to become a leader. You can attend leadership conferences like I did and meet new kinds of friends, and one day maybe give a speech to over 1,000 people. And I've been to the Best Buddies fashion show. I've been to holiday Christmas parties at Gilbert's of Houston. I've been to a fashion park. I've been to baseball games to see the Astros. I've been to bowling at the University of Houston. I've been to pizza parties. Number 7, ambassador training meetings, and I've been to winter forming, and I have done that in my life, Victoria.
Thank you so much, Tommy, for sharing that with everyone. So obviously, Tommy has had a lot of experience with Best Buddies Ambassadors. He mentioned all of the awesome things that he has gotten to do with Best Buddies and, in the ambassador program. So that is something, and Tommy's a great example of that. That you get to do within the ambassador program. You get to go out into the community and share your story, share the mission of Best Buddies. So that is something that we wanted to talk to you about today. So the ambassador program as a whole offers people with or without IDD the opportunity to gain public speaking skills, self-esteem, and confidence needed to successfully advocate for themselves, their peers, best buddies in their communities, their workplaces, and also in the government. We do a lot of different things, initiative-wise with Best Buddies Ambassadors. So overall, we host different trainings on different topics that are going to help our ambassadors build these leadership skills. They go out and they give speeches, so we help them write speeches, we help them develop their own personal mission statements. All of these things are really key in developing these skills and becoming leaders. So that's something that we provide for everybody that's an ambassador. And ambassadors act as a representative for Best Buddies in our different programs. So all of our ambassadors obviously are building these really great skills, and they're the ones that probably know the most about Best Buddies because they have such great experience with them. But they also know a lot about all of our different programs. So when they're out in the community and spreading the mission, they're getting people to get involved. And if anybody has questions and is interested in joining, they also know a lot about our different pillars so that they can share that with others as well. So I'm going to pass it over to Joaquin, since we kind of tag team the ambassador program, and he's going to tell you a little bit more about how you can get involved in Best Buddies Ambassadors.
Yeah, so with our ambassador program, like has been mentioned, there are trainings that they do that they take part in. We have them every month to prepare them and teach them the public speaking skills, the speech writing skills, learning how to advocate for themselves, various other leadership skills that come along with being a part of an ambassador, and just gaining that practice and confidence to be able to not only talk about the Best Buddies mission and learning how to advocate for themselves, but also just knowing how to become a leader in their community, at their friendship chapter, if they're a part of that program, or better being able to be an advocate in their job place if they're a part of the jobs program. Because as an ambassador, they can be part of any of our programs as well. So with that said, with those trainings, we do rely on volunteers to assist us with interacting on a one-to-one basis with our participants during the training, or in small groups if there's not enough volunteers for that one-to-one assistance. And so besides our general community volunteers, we are also open to having chapter members assist with facilitating the trainings, volunteering one-on-one with the participants in the activity that they're partaking in during the training, working on that speech, working on those public speaking skills, things of that nature, whatever the topic may be. And along with that, the ability to host or lead a training is an option for any chapter members or chapter in general that would like to do that. You would be given a training by myself or Victoria to know how to facilitate something like that and what all that entails, and knowing how to interact with our buddies and provide this training. It provides another way for chapters, especially promoter chapters that don't have that matching option in their chapter because there's not a special education program at the school, or maybe there's a lack of a host site in the meantime. But if you as college chapters want to possibly have your chapter members act as the volunteers for a training and lead a training or co-host one with myself or Victoria, that is a possibility. You would just need to get in touch with either one of us as we both handle the trainings together to see what those next steps would be. Usually that will be a training as to how to organize this and interact with the buddies. But regardless, this is just another way in which you can be involved with our programs outside of just the friendship program and the matches that are made within your chapter. And so on the screen there, you'll see the email for Victoria and myself. I'm sure you guys have gotten emails from us before, or our information and has been on some email. It's also on the website. So just reach out if you're ever interested in this, as well as possibly becoming an ambassador, as that's another way you can be involved, because this is open to anybody with or without IDD, and you would be acting as a representative of Best Buddies in our programs as an ambassador as well. But that's it for ambassadors. I'll pass it off to our next speaker.
Awesome. So we are going to turn it over to Cheyenne. She introduced herself earlier in the session, but she is one of our jobs team members, and also she serves on the Best Buddies International DEI Committee, which stands for Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. And today she's going to be talking about compassion fatigue. So Cheyenne, it is all you.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, guys. I'm so excited that you guys all are joining Best Buddies, or maybe you've been around for a while, but I'm glad that you guys are all here. The team asked me to talk about something related to DEI, and I happened to be reading a lot about compassion fatigue at the time, so it was kind of fresh on my brain, and it's something that really interested me, and I feel like it's really relevant. It's a really relevant conversation. So I just want to get started with the definition of compassion fatigue. Ali, if you could put that first slide up for me. Thanks. Perfect. So the first definition is the physical and mental exhaustion and emotional withdrawal experienced by those who care for sick or traumatized people over an extended period of time. And then the second definition is apathy or indifference towards the suffering of others as the result of overexposure to tragic news stories and images, and the subsequent appeals for assistance. So this term was initially coined for caretakers, nurses, doctors, things like that. But we've been seeing it pop up more and more in conversations surrounding DEI. But boiled down and extremely simply put, compassion fatigue is when you're just exhausted from fighting the fight and caring for people, or when you're caring so deeply, it just becomes overwhelming. Or when you become so inundated with the information, it no longer holds value or meaning to you. Sometimes it's when you have no more energy left to care about one more injustice in the world. And sometimes it's just wanting to give up because you feel like, what difference am I actually making anyway in the big scheme of things? And here are some symptoms. And as you see, some of these symptoms can be physical or emotional, just like any other stress or trauma. So you have some physical symptoms like headaches, digestive issues, sleeplessness, exhaustion. And then you have other emotional symptoms like depression, being withdrawn, irritable, mood swings, things like that. There's no shame. There shouldn't be any shame in compassion fatigue. And sometimes I think there is some because, especially with me, I know I've been there where I get overwhelmed because I feel like there's too many bad things going on. Am I really making a difference? And then I feel bad for wanting to give up on some things, but there really shouldn't be any shame. We can all experience it either in ourselves or in others when we come across people who are really apathetic or indifferent to the issues and don't really want to have that conversation. So we will experience it either in ourselves or in conversations with others. So I did want to spend some time talking about how we can combat it when we're out advocating for the people that we love. So now that we've had the definition, I want you guys to put in the chat really quickly. If you are comfortable, put in the chat if you have experienced compassion fatigue, or if you feel like you've ran into others who maybe have some sort of compassion fatigue. So just drop that in the chat if you do, but we'll keep going. So the first way to combat compassion fatigue is to know yourself and understand your needs first. We've all heard the expression, you can't pour from an empty cup. You have to take care of yourself before you can take care of others. I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking on self-care because I feel like that conversation happens a lot, especially in the world of COVID. Everyone's talking about how you need to take care of yourself. And I definitely agree. It is easier said than done, but it is always your first line of defense and very important. So make sure that you take care of yourself. But part of knowing yourself is also understanding your own strengths and weaknesses. So you want to know where you're lacking and surround yourself with people who can fill in those gaps. And this is going to help you share that burden to prevent emotionally and physically draining yourself. So who knows something that you don't know? If someone came to you and said, how can I be an advocate for the deaf community or the Hispanic community or the LGBT community? Do you know someone that you can turn to if you don't know the answers? Because you don't have to know it all, but just surround yourself with people who know things that you don't. It's really going to help combat that fatigue and help you share that burden. Step 2, know the people that you serve. I love this quote. Don't speak to the movers and the shaken. Speak to the don't speak to the movers and the shakers. Speak to the moved and the shaken. You want to invest time in getting to know who you're wanting to serve and learn what actually matters to them. Otherwise, you're going to waste your time advocating for things that don't matter. A really good example of this is my sister is deaf. She has been since early childhood, maybe longer, we don't know. But insurance refused to cover the cost of a hearing aid until she was in her late 20s, early 30s. And I was furious. And I spent a lot of energy being mad at the insurance companies and advocating for better insurance coverage. But then she got the hearing aid and she rarely wears it. She hates it. She really does not enjoy it. And so I realized my time is better spent advocating for things like more accessibility in restaurants or grocery stores, or educating people on things like deaf parenting to hearing children, things like that, where I spent so much energy being mad and advocating for something that didn't truly matter to her. So if you waste time advocating for things that don't necessarily matter, you will become too fatigued to fight for the things that do. And that's definitely not what we want. If you Google DEI issues, you're going to find hundreds of things that are calling for change. Hundreds may be low. You're going to find thousands of things that are wrong in the world. There are times, like I said, when I don't know where to start. I get overwhelmed because there's an overload of information. We used to live in what was called an information desert, where we only had access to a small amount of information at a time. But now it's more like an information swamp. It takes a lot more work to kind of sift through and find the facts and find the true facts and not just opinions, so that we can form our own opinion. And it's hard to find reputable resources to support our opinions. So it takes a lot of time and energy to kind of sift through all that's out there in the world. And we are constantly bombarded with different issues, and each issue has a million different ways to look at it, or other issues that are associated with it. For instance, if you look at inequality in the Black community, do you start with education? Do you start with social justice? Do you start with police reform? Do you start with financial resources and financial equality? Where do you start? It is very vast and can be very overwhelming. So instead of feeling overwhelmed about it, the best thing that you can do is find one issue, or at least one at a time, and become well educated on it. So start with what you're most passionate about, do some research, and really get educated on that. And then that's going to form a nice foundation for you to grow on. I always say it's better to be strong on one topic than weak on 1,000. And whatever that topic may be, whether it's, like I said, education, whether it's legislative acts, whether it's social justice or police reform, whatever it is, start there and build on that rather than trying to take on all of the issues all at once. And then step 3, and sometimes this can really be the hardest, make the connection. So I'm going to refer back to that second definition for a second. Apathy or indifference towards suffering of others as a result of overexposure to tragic news stories and images and the subsequent appeals for assistance. We have all been on Facebook or Instagram or turned on the TV or read the magazines, read the newspapers, whatever. You can open up any source. And right now it's crazy because you can literally carry all the bad news around right in your pocket. So you're going to find a lot of bad news stories. And some people, I've run into it. I had a conversation with someone last night, actually, kind of got me fired up a little bit. But it was because she was apathetic. She was like, oh God, you got to be politically correct about everything, and we're always hurting someone's feelings, and why do we have to do this? Again, it's an information swamp. There's a lot out there, and sometimes it becomes easier and easier for people to check out, which makes it harder for us to make that connection. But there is something that we can all agree on. The great unifier is that we have all been left out at some point in our life. So if I asked you to close your eyes and imagine a time when you've been left out, you can probably picture it pretty clearly. You can still feel the same emotions that you felt then. That's where you start. It's a great place to ignite inspiration in someone else. And you don't start by talking to them about the issues of the world, because they already know. Everyone knows what the issues are. You start with their feelings and where they're at, especially if you recognize that they're experiencing compassion fatigue. Talk about what happened to them and how it made them feel, and then you can tie it back to your cause. The next thing I want to show you, it is a great graphic. It's one of my favorite. You can go on to that. Yeah, perfect. This is the diversity continuum. So a lot of times we get in our head that everything is black and white. You're either inclusive or not, accepting or not, tolerant or not, racist or not, but it's not. It is a very broad spectrum. So what you want to do, I would encourage you to take a screenshot of this or take a picture of it so that you can refer back to it, because it's going to come in handy, because you need to figure out where your audience is. Who are you speaking to and where do they fall? It's not black and white, as you can see. And you don't expect them to move from the far left to the far right of the continuum after one conversation. This is a journey for them. It's a journey for you to help them with. It's not a sprint. If you, it's a marathon. If you make the marathon a sprint, you're going to lose steam and you're going to experience compassion fatigue. You will also cause compassion fatigue in others. You're going to push them into being apathetic and indifferent, and they're going to shut down and you won't be effective. So you can't hate someone through their journey. You have to love someone through their journey. And sometimes it's really difficult because you run into people who are very unkind. So sometimes it's hard, but you will not move anyone across that continuum without kindness and some sort of acceptance. And if you identify, for example, that someone is in the bias phase, so that's the orange. If you identify that someone is there, your goal is not to get them to enthusiasm. Your goal is to get them to tolerance. So it's just one step up. So what is one thing that you can do to inspire them or encourage them to take the next step? So if you think, I'm trying to get this person from bias to enthusiasm, you're really going to burn out. And again, you're going to cause them to experience compassion fatigue too, because they're going to get burned out and tired of listening to you, because that's really hard. If you are trying to change someone's mindset, you have to acknowledge that this is a very big task. It's not as easy, because sometimes you're having to address some deep-rooted belief systems that people have, and maybe they've grown up with for generations. So you really have to start small and just try to get them one level up. A little bonus tip: start with people who are interested in getting to that next level. You're not going to go up to someone who has no interest in moving from discrimination to anywhere else on that diversity continuum. There's a saying, if a rescue swimmer is on a rescue mission, who do they save first? They save the ones that are swimming towards them. So start with the people who are coming to you and wanting your advice, or wanting some education, or wanting to get involved even with Best Buddies. Start with those people who are swimming towards you. It's going to save you a lot of time and energy. All right, and then this is something I always remember. One of the best ways to fight compassion fatigue is to remember the good things that are happening. You want to flood your mind and your social media feeds and your email inboxes and everything else with good news. I make sure to, I create our DEI newsletter for Best Buddies every month, and I make sure in each one I include good news stories, because it keeps us motivated and moving forward. And it's really hard to give up or say that you're quitting, or it's hard to become apathetic or indifferent when you see some of those amazing things that are happening around the world. And let me tell you, there are amazing things happening. Sometimes you just have to look for those, stay focused on those, and that's going to be your North Star. So that's what's going to keep you going. And then I added in some of my favorite resources for you if you need some good news. Those are some really great places to check out. And then some tips. Pause emotionally charged conversations. You have to know your triggers, what triggers you and what triggers others, and recognize when someone else is being triggered, because when things get too emotionally charged or heated, people become defensive. And quite honestly, this is a hard one for me, because I do get very emotional and I do get very heated in conversations. I get very passionate. That's a better way to put it. I get very passionate, but you have to learn when things get too emotionally charged, you want to pause, because you don't want people to become defensive. When they become defensive, they are in protection mode. So nothing you say or do will be accepted, and it will instead be seen as a threat. So you need to pause and you need to come back, because becoming frustrated and angry will lead to compassion fatigue more quickly. Anger takes a lot out of us and a lot of energy, and is traumatizing to our systems when we don't have a method in place to process those feelings. And so you could experience some of those same symptoms from compassion fatigue. So you want to pause and come back to the conversation when things are more calm. Number 2, ask questions. This is a great one, because asking questions to the other person does several things. Number 1, it clarifies their perspective. So you can really understand where they're coming from and kind of what their perspective is. But it also requires reflection and introspection. So if you ask someone, why do you feel that way? All of a sudden they have to think, why do I feel this way? Do I feel this way because this is the way I was raised? Do I feel this way because of something that's happened to me in my past? Do I feel this way because of an experience I've had? It requires them to really justify and defend their stance. And sometimes people, once they do that, they can come around to your side even on their own. So again, that's going to take some of that burden off of you. But then it also gives you a moment to reflect. When you're asking questions, you're not being required to be on stage or to present or to defend your case. It gives you a moment to reflect on what they're saying and try to see it from their perspective. So again, you can meet them with love and without judgment. And number 3, invite and answer any questions without judgment. I've been asked a lot of questions, some of them derogatory, some of them just ignorant. And, I have to remember that it's a good thing. I love when people ask me questions and I don't meet their questions with defensiveness or judgment, even if the questions are hurtful. I am meeting them with love, because when someone asks you a question, that's them saying, I don't know this, will you teach me? And remember when I said you want to start with those people that are swimming towards you? This is those people. When they're asking you a question, even if it's like, wow, that was really offensive, that's them swimming to you, and that's them saying, I don't know this, will you teach me? So I do see some people putting in the chat that they have experienced compassion fatigue. Again, it's very, very common, and it's something that we should be talking about, because if you do some of these simple steps to kind of share the burden and take the burden off of yourself, you're going to be more effective. And ultimately, you're going to be able to push your mission and the mission of Best Buddies forward. So I'll hold on. I'll stay on for a little while longer in case you have any questions. I'm also going to put my email in the chat so that if you want to reach out to me with any questions, you can. Thank you guys so much for having me, and I'm glad that you guys are here.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Cheyenne. Yeah, and such great information for us to remember as we continue, fighting for inclusion in our chapters and wanting to make our campus, more inclusive and make people care. So really great tips, and Cheyenne's a great resource if you guys have any questions at all. So I'm going to pass it on over to Courtney, who is going to talk about fundraising.
Awesome. Thanks, Allie. And thank you to everybody that's already been on. It's been a great session so far. So I'm excited to talk to you a little bit about fundraising, and I promise it'll just be a little bit, because I know it's not the most entertaining topic. And then I'm going to talk about Friendship Walk, which is going to be really exciting. So why is fundraising within your chapter necessary? So there's a handful of costs that are associated with being a part of your Best Buddies chapter, like your chapter dues, hosting chapter activities, getting chapter swag, and then the Friendship Walk as well. We often don't want to have to ask our own chapter members to take money out of their own pocket. College students, I remember that I was struggling. I didn't want to have, I didn't have the extra cash to just be like, oh, here, I'll donate my own money. So being able to fundraise or find sponsors for your activities and chapter dues is a great way to fill those financial needs. So looking at fundraising and fundraising activities, these can be year-long, this can be a year-long effort. So a lot of schools will see, they will hold like one big fundraising event that they will try and collect all the monies to be able to cover all of their dues and their activities. But something that can be really effective is holding a few or multiple fundraisers throughout the year, and then budgeting out those funds to all of the costs that you think your chapter is going to have. So knowing that chapter dues are going to be $350, do we want to have one fundraiser where we're going to raise $350 plus, or do we want to dedicate one fundraising activity for chapter dues? You kind of have to weigh that out. But I think that being able to hold multiple fundraising activities throughout the year and then kind of keeping a backlog or a budget of all of the funds that you have raised tends to be a little bit more effective when you're looking at just fundraising as a whole. Something that can be really helpful when needing to manage those funds is to have an officer, like a financial officer, or even a fundraising committee comprised of your members that will kind of take on that role of planning the fundraising activities and making your budget and managing those funds throughout the year. So some key successful fundraising activities. The best fundraising events are those that don't cost you any money, or they have a very small cost associated to them, and where 100% of the funds are coming back to you as a chapter. And I have a lot of different fundraising activity ideas, and I know that your peers, you all have a lot of great fundraising ideas. So if you want to pop in the chat some successful fundraising events that y'all have had, that just so that we can kind of compare notes. I don't want to take up too much time because I know we're kind of getting towards the end. But this is a great way to be able to network with your peers and say, hey, what has worked for you? What hasn't worked? So if you want to pop that in the chat, that would be great. And then another kind of successful tip or key to fundraising activities, and we've talked about this a lot, Riley touched on it, Allie touched on it, is being able to use your network and engage in creative and unique fundraising opportunities. And then moving on to the third point, especially collaborating with other campus organizations to fundraise and promote your fundraising events. So we talked about working with student government. We talked about getting with Greek Life. They tend to have a big budget, and having them come to your fundraising events or to help promote it or even help fund it. When we talk about if it has a small cost, maybe finding someone that would be able to have that budget to cover that. So again, working with your network, and again, that will help you be able to spread, your mission of Best Buddies and kind of recruit members as well as you're reaching out to other organizations and inviting them to your fundraising events. And in turn, if they are attending, they are going to be donating to you, which is above all kind of the purpose of it. And then of course, all fundraising should be really fun. So this is an activity and an event that engages all of your chapter members. So you can all come together, be with each other, use each other's ideas and different skills and talents to put these events on. But outside of your chapter members, engage ambassadors in fundraising, engage community members, and being able to, kind of use their networks as well. It can be really fun. I know that it can be kind of, what's the right word, kind of stressful. But, myself, and I know that our program managers are always willing to help brainstorm ideas on fundraising activities. And I know that Joaquin kind of also touched on the chatter function in BB360. A great way to use that is just throw that out to all of the leaders in Best Buddies and say, hey, what's worked for you? So just really being able to kind of bounce ideas back and forth as well. So that's just kind of a brief overview of fundraising. Allie, if you want to go to the next slide, we will go into Friendship Walk, which I'm so excited about, mainly because this is going to be my first real in-person Friendship Walk. I was here for our hybrid walk, but this year is going to be really exciting. So we can go on to the next one. We'll kind of talk, what is the Friendship Walk? So for those that have not been involved with it before, the Best Buddies Friendship Walk is the leading walk in the country supporting inclusion for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. I mean, the hybrid walk I loved. It was so much fun. But we are so excited that, you know, in 2022, all 3 of our friendship walks are going to be in person. So we have dates for 2 of them and locations for 2 of them. So in Houston, our walk is going to be April 23rd at the University of Houston. Thank you to U of H for letting us use your campus. And then April 30th, here in North Texas, we will be having our walk at the Farmers Branch Historical Park. And Central Texas, we're still to be determined. We will announce that soon. But we are so excited to be able to have you all a part of our walks, and that we, you know, are kind of nailing down the details. And yeah, the next slide. All right. Okay, so let's talk about some ways that your chapter can get involved outside of fundraising. You know, that is a really great way to be involved, is to be creating your teams and to fundraise for the walk. But other ways is to participate in the Empower Inclusion Challenge. So this was a new challenge that was created this last year, and that's going to be carrying over again this year. We had a few Texas chapters participate this last year, and we hope to have more this year. And the Empower Inclusion Challenge is a video challenge where we had chapters create videos that talked about, you know, why they are a part of Best Buddies. And then it was a challenge across the nation for who got the most likes and votes on their videos. So that's one way that you can be involved. The second way is to participate in Launch Week. So as Best Buddies, we will be doing a lot of different activities during Launch Week, but your chapter can also have their own Launch Week on campus, and creating your own different activities, daily activities, whether they're in person or via social media, but really hyping up Launch Week and having a kickoff party is a great way to be involved. Again, engaging your ambassadors, invite them to come and speak at your Launch Week parties or to be on your team, but definitely engaging your ambassadors. And then chapter activities at the walk. So some of our school chapters might have the opportunity to have booths along the path of our walk and to host activities actually at the walk. But then you can also have activities, you know, pre or post walk as well, just within your own chapter, whether it's on campus or at each walk location as well. And then we're going to have a lot of different volunteer opportunities. So pre-walk, we are going to have a lot of need a lot of prep and help there, but then also the day of, a lot of different volunteer opportunities. And again, Allie had kind of talked about how do we engage with other organizations on campus. We would love for you to invite, you know, other organizations on campus to come and volunteer for our walk as well, and kind of give them a little bit of a mission moment and engage them with Best Buddies. So those are just a few ways. There's definitely a lot more ways that you can be involved as well. And we will kind of talk more about that as, you know, April comes up closer. But all of our walk pages on our teams are live. And so you can go ahead and register your team now. You can start recruiting your members and personalize your walk pages. So if you just go, and we can put these in the chat as well, and then we'll send out the information. But if you go to your certain area, you'll be able to create your team and start talking to your chapters about what you guys want to do for walk. And yeah, Allie, I see that what you put in the chat. That is something that I wanted to touch on as well, is if you're not in one of these areas, so thank you for putting that in, you guys can host your own walks on campus. Just as an example, I know because Cheyenne was on the call, down in Waxahachie, where she's at, Daymark, the living facility there, they had their own walk on their campus, which was so fun to be able to see this last year. So yeah, if you're not in one of our areas, we definitely would love to still have you host a walk, whether you and you'll be able to join in virtually on some of our kind of kickoffs as well. But that is kind of what we're looking forward to. From what I've heard, there's some really exciting incentives coming from HQ as well. So that's always something really fun to look forward to. I'm going to put my email in the chat as well. I am always more than happy to get on calls and kind of strategize what fundraising looks like for your chapter, and then also for walk and any questions that you guys might have So I'll put that in the chat. So we're really excited about this year, and I'm so excited to be able to see what all of you guys do with your fundraising and with the walk. So thank you.
Okay, awesome. Does anyone have any Friendship Walk questions for Courtney?
So when can we create our team again?
You can do that now. So our pages are live. So I'll copy those links into the chat as well, but you can create your team, you can start personalizing your page, and then also having your members join the teams as well.
Okay, well, thank you, Courtney. If you guys have any additional questions for Courtney, you can reach out to her. She just put her email in the chat. So we are coming down to our last few minutes here. So we just wanted to end with a few announcements. So I'm mentioning this now because I didn't want to take away from the beginning of our training, but I did want to let everyone know that I will be transitioning into a new role with Best Buddies. So I'll be leaving my program manager position and transitioning into, I'll be the manager of communications and stewardship for Best Buddies in Texas. So I will no longer be directly overseeing our programs. We are bringing on my replacement on October 15th. So you guys will be introduced to her whenever she starts. But if you guys are currently on my caseload, please, feel free to reach out to me in the meantime. I'll still be your point of contact until that time. And whenever our new PMV starts, I will make those introductions. And again, I'll still be on the team. I'll still be working closely with our schools about social media and things like that. So not going anywhere, just a little bit of a change. So just wanted to go ahead and announce that. And then the only other things, and we mentioned them earlier, is our events that we have coming up. So I mentioned those on the first slide, or one of the first slides of the presentation, but we've got our fall festivals coming up. We would love to see all of our chapters there if you're located in Houston or North Texas. The Turkey Trot, all of that fun stuff, you can find that on our website at bestbuddies.org/Texas or on our Facebook pages. So yeah, make sure you guys are following us on social media at Best Buddies TX, that's our handle across all social media platforms. So that's just a great way to stay connected with us. And other than that, thank you guys so much for joining our training today. I will be sending out this recording. So if you guys have any chapter officers who missed the training, or you guys want to go back and reference anything, you guys will have access to that next week. So thanks again, and I hope you guys have a fantastic rest of your Saturday.